and welcome to 4,000 and Counting. I'm Watty, and today I'm joined by a friend of the show, Mr. Retribe, Mr. Nick
Mhm.
Rothwell. Nick, you're back. Retribe is flying. Good to see that smiley face. How are
Oh,
you, mate?
buddy, I'm really good, man. We were just talking about like kids in hockey and juniors
Yeah.
and minor hockey. It's pretty awesome. Hockey is just it's reached a new level of passion for me. Obviously, I've always loved hockey, but as you know, since I became a stepdad, I've one of my kids plays hockey. They all did it at some point, but one's still playing hockey, and it's just I'm a hockey dad now, dude.
Loving it, eh?
Yeah, yeah. I never thought I'd be like one of these, parents that like is like cheering their kids on and go, go, go. But like inside I'm just fired up and just so excited that this kid started a hockey journey. But it's definitely looking at hockey through a new pair of glasses for me. It's pretty awesome.
As long as you're not the dad that goes down to the sidelines and tries to speak to the fucking coach. We don't like them around here.
No, I'll never be that guy.
Don't be that guy. No, and that goes for any of you watching. Don't be that guy
Don't
or
be that
woman.
guy. Just do you know what? Just watch your kid.
Have
Don't
fun.
yell instructions. This is something that we learned, right? Is that kids when they like kids are like penguins, right? So you imagine all the penguins in Antarctica, and there's millions of them around. Even though, okay, that's exaggeration. There's thousands of them around, but they can hear their mom and dad coming. So they're trained by instinct to listen to mom and dad's chirps. And little kids are the same thing. They will hear their father's or mother's voice over the coach's voice. So when you're yelling at your kids over the boards, shoot the puck, Johnny, pass the puck, Johnny, even though your coach is yelling something different, like get off the ice, Johnny, he's going to hear the mom and dad. So just yell encouragement. Don't be yelling instructions. Don't be telling him when to pass and shoot. Leave that up to the coach and his teammates. Just be there and enjoy it.
Well, that I don't know why it's just triggered something in my brain, but it has. The most famous version of that we would have seen of late would have been Tyson Fury's old man in the corner when he fought Usyk. You've got his
Mm-hmm.
trainer here, and his trainer's telling him this thing, and you got the fucking towel guy, the cut guy here, he's telling him this thing, and then his dad's over there, and he's telling him fucking this thing. Tyson sat there like, what the fuck is
What the
going
fuck?
on? Like, this guy's trying to
Yeah.
punch my head in, and all three of you are just yelling like different things at me. It's don't get me wrong, it's great to have parents involved. I saw it a lot with my camps where I could do a 12-week camp and never see a parent for the wrong reasons, and I
Mm-hmm.
could do a 12-week camp and not see parents for the right reasons. It's good that you want to support your kid and it's good that you want to be there and that you want to watch. But I think if we let the professionals do their jobs, and I'm sure this is something we'll just get right into, Nick. Obviously, the
Yeah.
level of coaching in the UK has it's never been high, and I think a big part of that is to do with we don't incentivize ex-players to stay involved, whether it be through coaching, whether it be in management, whether it be hockey camps, whether it be dry land, whatever it may be. There's not many avenues, or certainly there's not many paid avenues where we can keep people involved. So I had Henry from Ice Hockey UK on, and we had a big chat, and this was one of the things we talked about, and how do we get these guys to stay? You know as well as I do, if you're coaching, say, a junior program, you're head coach of Basingstoke juniors, you've got to overlook 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s, potentially ENL 1 or ENL 2. That's a job. That's an actual job. And obviously, a lot of us have coached over the years and we volunteered our time and gave time. How do we get the guys involved? A, that want to make it a career? Because, hey, if you're fucking good at it, why should you not get paid for it? And B, the other guys who maybe are dads or stepdads, but they're still involved with the game and don't mind, maybe they can do an hour or two a week. How do we get all these guys back into the game?
Well, it's my story, Nikki. Like, as you know, like if it wasn't for the fact that my wife had three kids who had already started playing, learned to play at Lee Valley, I don't think I would have gotten back involved at the level that I did. But they were doing learn to play with Eddie Joseph, and um,
Legend.
and it was I get emotional thinking about it because me and him, like, we formed a bond. Like we were doing learn to plays in Sobel every Saturday because the rink closed down, and we just had this connection, this bond. And he encouraged me to get back and get my level one, and he sponsored me through the level two. And at the time, he got in touch with the EIHA and said, "Look, Nick Rothwell's here. We know he played, hockey, and he knows the game. Is there any way we can expedite his coaching levels? Because I need some help." And they're like, "No, he didn't play GB."
Absolutely not.
So, so that's what they have, is they have this elite mentality that, like, okay, Jonathan Phillips, who's a friend, can retire and then automatically gets his coaching levels. Now, what's the difference? Of course, he plays at a higher level. But when you're, coaching kids, you understand the game. I've analyzed the game. I know hockey inside and out. I can coach. But I had to go through this process, which I didn't mind doing. I'm glad I did it. But it wasn't as easy uh, for someone who's running a business, being a stepdad, trying to do all the stuff as a volunteer to get my qualifications so that I could coach. So the simple answer, I believe, is just to make it easier for guys who have played the game at any level, who to get a level one coaching so they can go out right away and start helping. I don't, yeah. So you just got to,
And
and it's got to be a
sorry,
buddy.
Nick,
Yeah,
anyone that's done a level one, it is the most fucking easy thing on the planet, right? That we have no business being there.
no,
Like, it's almost an insult to us, and that's not like, hey, our shit don't stink and we're so much better than everybody else. It's fucking pointless. It's bordering on pointless for us.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it would be like getting an Oxford graduate to do a fucking two times tables. Like,
It's
this is
it's it's
it's what
not
we're talking
challenging,
about.
but it's needed, right? And this
But
is what
is
I'm
it?
saying. Like, it
That's the
should
question. Is it
it
needed?
I imagine for some insurance or some kind of thing, you need to have a qualification. But why can't it be gifted to guys who have played the game? So you've played the game. We know you've been around. You played 8 seasons here and there. You've been around. You while you were playing, you were involved in junior development, like most players are. So they should be gifted level one and be allowed to get on the ice. Yes, I maybe have some understanding around GDPR and health and
Yeah.
safety and
First
risk
aid and all
assessments.
this,
Yep.
yeah, all the add-ons. But the actual
Yeah.
hockey side of it, well, let's
Yeah.
use me for an example. So I was first registered as a coach when I was 16 years old, so 22 years ago. I got my level one, and then when I became 18, I got my level two, and I ran my own camps. I played in the EPL, played in the BNL, played in the Elite League. I've obviously had my ban, and when my coaching badges would have expired. Now, if I want to go back in, do I have to do my level one and level two again? Can I do a refresh? If I
Mm.
can't do a refresh, why? Have I forgot everything that I've learned before? I had, at the time of my ban and at the time of like stepping away and being away from the sport in 2014, I'd had like over 10 years coaching experience at that point. And this is the one of the things that gets my goat. And I'll use Jonah Phillips. And this could be completely wrong, but I'm using him just because you use him as an example. Jonah finishes, he gets his badges. Well, knowing the Elite League schedule, he probably had zero time to be out on the ice with the kids over the 15-year career that he had. Whereas guys in EPL training twice a week. No
Yeah.
excuse, or well, now the National League, there's no excuse for a Leeds Knights player not to be out on the ice with the fucking 12s and 14s. There's no excuse
Yeah.
for a Swindon Wildcats player not to be out on the ice on a Wednesday night with the kids. So guys were getting reps in and getting time in and doing some actual coaching because that's the key.
Yeah.
It's fine being a player, but
Yeah.
like Jose Mourinho couldn't play worth a shit. The man can manage though.
Yeah.
Like there's guys that
There
might not be.
is. Yeah.
Look at Pete Russell's a prime
Look at Pete
example.
Russell, Ryan Aldridge,
He-
like, yeah,
yeah,
guys who they could skate up and down the ice, but they're far better coaches than they were players. And they wouldn't mind me saying that, would they?
no, absolutely, I totally agree. If you look at Pete, he was
Paul Heavey,
yeah.
right?
Again,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of good coaches in the British system that weren't the best players. Adam Keefe was a great player and he was tough as shit, but he's sure as shit proving right now that he's a better coach than he was a player.
And I think, and there are other guys that I know that never played in the top league. They always played in the third or second division, and they would love to get back on the ice. I know, like, the current CEO or the chairman, sorry, of the English ice hockey. When he saw me posting about my getting my level one and level two, he was like, "Nick, I want to get into this." So I'm glad he's the chairman. I'm hoping he's going to make it a lot easier for guys who maybe didn't play at the top levels, but they might have a kid now getting interested in the game. They're needed on the ice. They're needed not just for their hockey expertise, but for their knowledge, their cultural knowledge of what goes on in the changing room, how to talk to the boys, how to treat the boys on the bench. Because and we were talking a bit about parents' involvement, and we know that there are some dads out there who go out and they'll get their level one coaching, and they don't know the culture of the game. You know, they need to hang around the guys who have been in the changing rooms because we know just as much learning happens in the changing room as it does on
Oh
the
yeah.
ice. You know, yep. So I think it's the culture of the game that needs to be exposed more, and it needs to have guys who've not just been on the ice but been in the changing rooms, who know the lingo, they know the language, they know how to treat one another as teammates, so they know how to impart that wisdom to young guys and gals.
And it's different in every sport you play, and depending on what level you played. But you know, some dads, hey, we couldn't do it without them. We do.
Yeah,
This isn't us sitting and slagging the dads off for getting involved. We need you guys. We need you guys
not
and
at all.
girls
That we need them. We
to
need
be
them. Yeah,
involved.
yeah.
But like, if you played like a mediocre level of basketball where it didn't matter if you fucking won 100-0 or lost 100-0,
Mm,
your idea of sport is very different to Nick and mine. You know,
yeah,
like I'm talking, you're getting chucked out with 10 seconds to go in a defensive zone face-off, and you see Guildford put out Milos, and Aldi sends you out to take the draw. You can't fucking lose that draw in a 2-1 game, right?
mm,
You can't teach that. You've got
mm,
to have lived it, you've got to have experienced it, and you've got to be able to then pass that on and explain and get real good gamesmanship.
yeah,
What
yeah. Yeah,
whatever.
well, and the culture of the game, the respect. Like it's something that happened at a couple of the camps that I was on as a athlete well-being advocate that I volunteered for, and it was just like how the kids were at the Cambridge ice rink, how they were running around the rink, how they were treating the toilets. You know, these are things that like as a hockey player to respect your stuff,
Yeah.
and you need another hockey player to be able to sit with those guys and say, little man, this behavior is you wouldn't do it at home, you don't do it in the changing room. So there's just little bits of wisdom, the guys who have been around the game can start, imparting on, and they need to be involved in the game. We need to find a way. The governing bodies, I'm sure they're working on it, Nikki. I wish they would talk about it more. I wish
Yeah.
they would talk more about what they're working on so that we can be given an idea. Because right now it's taking, I'm trying to find solutions because right now I don't see any. I see a few posts on social media about things like concussion awareness that just are not true. Players need to be informed. Players need to be know what's going on. So do parents, and I think a little bit more transparency about what's going on. I didn't listen to all of Henry's podcast with you. I listened to the beginning, but more things like that need to be done. These guys need to be talking to everybody and let everybody know what the plans
I really enjoyed having Henry on. I thought he spoke openly and honest. He seems to be good for the game. Anybody that I've talked to that's in any sort of position of power or knowledge, experience that have had any dealings with him, everything I've heard is positive. So that's
are.
good. From I can only take a man at his word. And when I spoke to him, I liked a lot of the things that he had to say. And even afterwards, like we shot the shit over text message and stuff. And even he said, dude, we may not agree on everything, but I like what you're doing for the game, and long may it continue. And
Mm,
I wished him well, and I would like to get him back on because it's easy for these people in these positions to not do those interviews. So
yeah.
it took some balls for him to jump on and do it because that's the
Mm-hmm.
first interview that he's done outside of Ice Hockey UK TV. So it's the first kind of like independent interview where and to his credit, he didn't ask me like what the question's going to be. He was like, I was like, is there anything off limits? He's like, no, man, just ask me questions. And
Beautiful.
yeah, like I like that.
Yeah. I do too. And like I said, I think you should do more of it. I think the other guys should do more of it. I think we just need to hear more from them about their plans. I know they have this 6-year plan. I know I've tried to get involved, Nikki, and it's been a little bit to my frustration that at certain levels I can get through and then some I can't get through. And I think that I don't know what it is. It seems like I don't know. I can't help but take some things personally, right? Why did I get so far?
Obviously I know about it, but let's let the listeners and the viewers know exactly what you're talking about. Obviously, there's been some Facebook posts, some social media stuff, basically asking people to apply for certain positions within the EIHA, well, the EIH, sorry, and within
Mhm.
Ice Hockey UK. And I'll kind of let you just take the lead from there.
Yeah, like when I did my coaching and I wanted to get back involved in hockey, it was like part of me was like, UK hockey gave me so much. It gave me an 8-year career kind of a semi-pro level where I got to get the job of a lifetime on TV, where I got to be, the face of British of Super League through Sky Sports years, and and I wanted to give something back. I've learned a lot. I've been through some really dark times, Nikki, in my life. Like the way that I coped with my fears was not healthy. I drank too much. I ended up in jail. I did some horrible things, and I ended up having to get sober. And when I got sober, I was like, I need to start giving back. And it evolved around to me like, why don't I apply for one of these jobs as a volunteer? And I got a position as one of the athlete well-being advocates. So going to the elite pair pathway weekends and just helping some of the kids and doing some talks, and it was fun. And then I moved to the Czech Republic, but I'm back in England. I'll be back next week for a week. I'm back in England once a month, and the job for the chairman came up. So I put myself forward for that, and I got down to me and the last guy, right, Nikki, and I got an email saying like, Nick, thanks for everything, but because you live in the Czech Republic, we think that it would be, it's not a wise choice to go with you just because you're in another country. And I'd say, fair enough, fair enough. Now, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I know I can get to England pretty quick. And I know, like, Nicky's a good friend of mine, but I know his travel schedule can probably be a little bit more hectic than mine.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I conceded that because I live in another country, you know, that's fair enough. Anyway, a couple of other positions have come up. So I got pretty far in that process, right down to the last two. But a couple of other positions have come up, and I've not even made it into the interview process. So I've not even to the chairman of the EIH, I get to the final two, and then one is just a non-director or the
A
non-director
non-exec
role,
director?
non-exec director role, and then the other one was for a paid position. And I understand I wouldn't get an interview for that, might not meet the qualifications, but for the non-exec director role, I was like, probably, I could probably do this and I can help out, and I didn't even get an interview. So it seems to me that I don't know whether it's because of what I'm doing, trying to create a platform to support hockey players, or because of my background. And again, I might be completely making this up in my head and being insecure or whatever. And it might, but I do question whether or not, why wouldn't they at least ask me some questions about whether or not I can help out in some way? I have had a talk with Henry. I had a Zoom with him a couple of years ago, talking about what we do. My business partner is, who about, is a
Yeah.
sports psychologist, works with elite athletes in football and other sports. And it just seems like, I don't know, it seems like it's like hold off on Nick over here. And again, I'm probably, this might just be my insecurity, Nicky, I don't know. But for me, from them not to ask, through all of my experiences as a player, as a broadcaster or something, who's volunteering his time to help, and I have to go out and create standalone program platform through Retribe to help players. So, and that's now the pathway that I'm doing. I'm just like, forget the governing bodies, forget teams, forget everything, and just concentrate solely on the players. So it does confuse me a little bit, why they wouldn't ask for some,
No.
like, at least my opinion on some things. Particularly because I'm really good around some topics. Particularly around, my specialty is working with people who are using, alcohol or drugs as a coping mechanisms, and that could be both for players who are active and inactive. And we know that there's some challenges around that. And I've put out an invite to all of the teams, to put on some free sessions, free sessions on alcohol and substance use. And it's only been individuals who have reached out and asked. No team, no one from any organization.
Do you think there's a stigma to it?
I think there's a stigma to it. I think if I talked about concussion, it would be the same thing.
Yeah, mate.
There's
Like,
this,
no,
yeah, yeah.
well, the NHL is the biggest fucking league on the planet that just pretends concussion's not
It
a
does.
thing. Yeah, yeah, it
They
just
say,
doesn't.
well, this is the thing. There was the big seminar in Twickenham a few months ago, and Misha, my business partner, and one of her colleagues from Brunel University went to it, and they spoke openly about what they were doing with Retribe, and the fact that we have a group of guys who meet every week, and every single one of them have had concussions, some known concussions of into the teens, and all have reported problems with well-being. And there's direct evidence that, concussions can lead to poor mental health. And she said there's no direct correlation between concussions and mental health. So
Bullshit.
this is and this is the thing, Nikki, is that we're all, we'll get into, is that owners, leagues tend to protect
I
owners.
Mate, I can attest to the concussion fucks with your mental health because I've
Oh,
had
geez,
plenty of
yeah,
my concussion slash ADHD slash mental health is my brain's like a minefield sometimes.
yeah,
Like it
yeah,
literally is. And to put in like alcoholism and drugs as well. Like
yeah.
everybody knows that I've had issues with bits and pieces, whether it be pain pills or whatever. Like a lot of it goes hand in hand, and it's a nice
They
big
do,
loop.
and it's the thing that people don't want to talk about. But to not
I get that. I
at
get it. It's
least,
scary to talk about.
yeah, 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 it is. But the only team in the UK that have had me to come and do anything are Cardiff Devils, and I got a shout out to
Okay,
Pete and to Todd, because they got me in to do a talk, and it wasn't directly about alcohol or substance use. It was just to tell my story. Um, and so, well done to Cardiff. They do, like, and I had a good time to have a lunch with Todd and with Pete. So I'm going to tip my hat to the one team that has at least been curious to ask some questions about the challenges that players go through, especially guys who come in from other countries, and especially this time of year when it starts getting a little bit darker. How easy it is to turn to some kind of way to fill a void.
to
And
get
it can
that
be
dopamine
anything
hit.
from, yeah, and it can be anything from a few too many pints to gambling, and we know gambling is on the rise. I've had guys like Hilton Ruggles come on and talk. River Rimshaw has come on and been open about his challenges. So you've had a legend like Hilton and the guy who's just retired in River talk openly about their challenges with gambling, and both of them will say they were not the only ones on their teams, to have challenges with that, because you can't smell gambling on their breath, right?
No.
No. So gambling is a huge issue that a lot of guys are it's just so easy on your phone, right?
I was
But then
also
there's also, yeah,
to add to the ADHD, concussion, alcohol, and drugs. I used to be a gambling addict as well. So, uh, but like, and the thing with that was, and
yeah,
I would say, don't get me wrong, everyone likes a fucking accumulator. Everyone likes a tenner on the Grand National. Everyone likes a fiver on the Gold Cup, whatever, fine. But mine would be we would finish skating in Basingstoke like at 11:30 when I was on a two-way, so like elite league, so professional,
yeah, yeah,
and we'd
yeah,
just go to fucking Coral and Weatherspoons.
yeah,
We would leave the rink, we'd do our gym, we'd shit, shower, shave, we'd go into town 11:30, we'd have play
yeah,
spots on, we would have lucky 15s on, and then in between the races, we'd go next door and we'd have fucking 2 pints, and we'd come back. And some of the imports, I won't name them, but
yeah,
anybody that was on that roster, they would come in and they could put one hand 50 quid on black, and if that
yeah,
come in and they won 100 quid, that was they would ever done. But
yeah,
if it's the day you don't hit 50 quid on the first go, you look and you go, fuck, I've just done 1,300 quid
yeah.
in
Oh,
40, 45
it's
minutes. I've just done two
such an
weeks'
easy rabbit
wages.
hole. Such an easy rabbit hole to go down. And if anybody is you're curious about Hilton's story, maybe we could put a link to that talk that I did with Hilton,
Yeah, 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 do
because
that. We'll
that
put it
was
in the
really,
comments.
really, really eye opening about Hilton's challenges with gambling and the problems that it got him into. And just we in Guildford, it was the same thing. And I won't name the guy, but he literally lost his socks in a betting shop,
Yeah, I can
and
believe
it
it.
was such a listen to this. So he went into the betting shop and he needed to know his bet was coming in, right? But he had to take a dump. And he's like, oh, I gotta take a dump. I gotta take a dump. And the race was coming up. So he went into the shitter. And it was such a gross shitter, and there was no toilet paper. So he had to use his socks. He literally lost his socks because he had to wipe his ass. I won't tell you who it is.
You can tell me off it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's true, and I watched a couple of like really big time players in the Elite League days
Mm-hmm.
suffer bad with gambling, and
Mm-hmm.
to the extent that they don't even know they're suffering with gambling, or they would never admit. But yeah, but you know what it's like. They'll come and ask you to borrow 50 quid.
Yeah,
Their their wages will come in and it's spent before it's even landed and things like that. And it was always that bad chasing that
yeah,
chasing that high. And if you won a
Yeah.
grand, it was, well, it wasn't 2 grand, was it? So you got to go again. And it was always chasing that high, whether it be through gambling, whether it be through alcohol, whether it be through
I'll
drugs.
go. Yeah.
So some guys will go to even further extent. Some guys will be sex. It will be there's lots of stuff. Like I had Bobby Robbins on. He talked about his addiction to sex and
Mm.
how unhealthy it was. And whatever it is, I think we're all looking for that same thing, no matter what the addiction is. You're just looking for that spike, that happiness, that short
Yeah.
term boom.
And if you're in the UK or any, like, we'll just pick the UK and their top three leagues, and there's 22 guys on each team, and at least 10% of each team has got a challenges with alcohol, and at least
100%.
10% has a challenge with, and it's probably a lot more, and a lot have challenges with gambling. So another 10% on that, and then so you're looking at almost your whole team can be afflicted with something, whether it's women, gambling, alcohol, drugs, pornography, food. These are all external things that players, especially players who are moving countries and they don't have any deep roots, they don't have any family to confide in. They're scared to talk to their managers. They're scared to talk to the coaches. They don't want to confide in their teammates because they don't want to be seen as that guy who's got any challenges. But most, you got to look at your team, and then you got to say to yourself, as an owner or a manager or a coach, what do we do about this? And I always say the first step just starts with awareness. You just have to be aware. Like you said about, when a guy comes up and asks you for 50 quid, a lot of guys would just kind of, oh, dismiss that. But if a guy keeps asking you, a couple of times for 50 quid, you might want to be able to pull him aside and say, are things okay? And don't ask him just once or twice, but try to get to the root of things. And if and that's what we need, Nick. We need players to start looking after each other, because it's not in the best interest of teams and organizations to start these awareness campaigns around concussion or alcohol or substance use, because they're admitting some liability, or they're admitting that there's a problem. And I think even by saying, hey, Nick's coming in, because I'm a recovered alcoholic with over 8 years of sobriety, if my name is associated with coming in, automatically everyone's going to think it's about drugs and alcohol. And that was only part of my story when I went to Cardiff. The main object when I went to Cardiff was to talk about disconnection and to give some. You have a team of 20, 22 guys, but really there's a lot of disconnect there. So there's not much flow in your organization. So, and this goes with Pete's teachings as a coach, is how do we connect the players together and in the changing room, so that it can go, and in the community, so that it can then represent itself on the ice as a team that's unified and connected. They're going to play better.
Yeah, everyone knows,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
anyone that we've had on, like I had Brett Ferguson on a couple of weeks back, and we talked about the opposite, because alcohol's fine. There's nothing wrong with alcohol. It's when you
No, I
use it
don't.
wrong, it's when it's an issue. But like Monday Club, the boys all go play pool and darts, and they sink a couple of pints in the local. But it's one of those things where he's saying like fucking 18, 20 guys go now. Like that's good. That's what you want. You don't want it to be 3 guys and then 5 guys. If you can get 18 of the boys together, whether it's five-a-side football, whether it's drinking pints, whether it's throwing arrows, whatever it may be, the boys together that have got each other's back, that could actually then be able. Fergie could go into player X and say, right, dude, you're fucking too heavy with the drinking at the moment. You've been out 3 times last week. I need you to dial it in. We've got a big run coming up. You need players to be able to have fun, but you need the players also to be accountable to each other and to be looked after by each other. They're your brothers for 8 months a year.
And this is the thing, is like, in those moments where you're out, that's where some truthful, honest conversations can happen. And in my experience, that's where trust is built. So when you're out in those social situations, you're able to say to another guy, do you know what, I'm struggling with my relationship, or I'm missing my folks, or my dog back in Saskatoon died, and I'm heartbroken right now, and I don't know. So it's in these moments where teams are bonding, where you can be vulnerable and you can express yourself in a way that creates trust. And that's what leaders need to do on a team. Leaders need to be able to say when they're struggling. You can't always be the leader that is invincible. You got to be the leader. The strongest leaders are the ones who say when they're struggling, and then they let the other guys know, oh, fuck, it's okay to say I'm struggling. It's okay to be, I can go talk to that guy now. And I honest conversations, Nikki, that the bonds are created and connections are made. And like you say, when you got 18 guys going out, yes, it's over beer, and I've got no problems with that. I'm not anti-drinking. I'm pro connection, and if those moments create connection where guys can be vulnerable and honest with each other, then that's when the connections are made. And when guys are struggling, they're going to feel more comfortable being able to say something.
I think it's a different landscape and what it was when we played. There's no such fucking thing as mental health when we played. Like it didn't exist. And if you brought up that you were feeling a little bit down in the locker room,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure Chinny and Adam Green are going to give you a big hug and say, it's okay.
Yeah.
Or they're going to
Yeah.
rip the fucking piss out of you
Yeah. Yeah.
until somebody else says something stupid in the locker room. But now
Yeah.
it is a totally different landscape. You can talk to the boys. I feel, well, even just like on social media, platforms like
I think it's
ours.
getting better. I think it's getting better. It's getting better.
I'm happy to, put myself out there. I've talked about all sorts of my addictions. I've talked about IVF on this podcast. I've talked about stuff that's fucking uncomfortable to talk about. I've talked about my
Yeah.
drug ban. I've tried to be open and honest and straight down the middle. And hopefully that's allowed other people to kind of do the same thing. I know right when myself, Bandy, and Max started this thing, we had you and Scott Plews on episode 4 or 5,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and we shot the shit about mental health right off the bat. It was something that
Yeah.
we wanted to, and that we were still relatively new. We were young, but we
Hmm.
knew that it was something that was going to be important. And if you can have three fighters come on and talk about their struggles and be able to open up, and
Yeah.
if the three
Well,
tough
Nikki,
guys can
that's
do it, fuck it,
when
anyone can do it.
when we were in London and I just bumped just you and your missus and I just crossed your paths, right? And so or Chinatown. And I the one thing I wanted to get across to you is keep doing what you're doing. You're building community,
Mm.
and through this podcast, people it's through your stories, through other people sharing their stories and their challenges. It's wonderful to hear about the championships and the lifting the trophies and the banter and the fun. But the when someone's talking about their honest challenges, then that's building community. And that's why I when we were there, I don't know if you remember me saying that to you, but keep
Yeah,
doing what you're
yeah, I do.
doing.
Yeah.
You're building community, and that's why I love what you do. So you keep it up, brother.
So obviously you touched on you had River on, you've had Hilton on. By the way,
Yeah.
what a fucking beauty. I had Hilton on and I remember it.
Mm.
It was Christmas. I had him on in Riga. I was in Riga. I took my laptop because I knew it was this dedication, folks. Took my laptop, took my mic out to Riga, left like the pub and the party and everything, and come back to the room, sat down with Hilton, and he comes on and he's dressed as Rasta Claus. He's got like a Santa hat on. He's just sort of like what a great guy. What other guys have you had on the pod, and any other stories you want to kind of relay from your time
Well,
doing it?
I've had different stints of doing a pod, right? I had like the first one because I'm trying to figure out the best format, the best way to do it. But we had like the one that I had on with Hilton. I did it. I can't even remember what we called it. Um, but it was what was it? Repurpose. And I was talking to ex guys like Hilton Ruggles, who I had on. But then in this new one, I've had River on. Paul Rushworth has been on both because Paul's got a really, really deep story. Like he was the captain of the London Knights in Super League time, and he's got a hell of a
Absolute
story.
stud, by the way.
Yeah,
Stud
what a
captain.
and what a great guy.
Tough,
And he's
tough, could play.
yeah, yeah,
Just yeah, mean. I loved him.
yeah. He's a good. So listen to his. But it's Jeff Smith was on.
Yeah.
We were yeah. Jeff Smith was on, and Jason Wood was on.
Jeff
Um,
Smith was my first Southwest Conference coach.
was he? What a great
Yeah,
guy. And what he's doing with Big Moose, and he talked about everything that he's doing. Peter Hewitt was on, and he was a Chelmsford Chieftain, just a workhorse for the Chelmsford Chieftains in his career. He's from up north, but suffered from a really bad head injury against Streatham. Dean Russell Samways, who's a goalie that I played
yeah.
with in Guildford, and it was really interesting that these three, definitely Dean and Jason talking about concussions, and how that's affected their mental health. So these guys are just telling the stories. And what I did, Nikki, is I broke it down into like three periods. So three 20-minute periods. That was a format of everything. But we're still trying to figure out, what to do because I want it to be more regular. You
Yeah,
and Lee are my next two guests, by the way, you and Lee Mercer.
let's do it.
But the idea is that that third period, people get really vulnerable. When we talk about the life after hockey, and it's like just some real. That means I'm not ashamed to say it, but some tear jerkers happen. Where
Oh
people
yeah, that
talk about their
happens.
challenge, and that's what Retribe was initially set up to do, was to help ex-athletes. But as we're going now, we want to be able to help out athletes at all stages of their career, right? So, um, during the career, getting ready to ending your career, and then post career, I think they're just all aspects of an athlete that need to be looked after. And nobody, nobody, especially in the UK, there's nobody that looks after anybody
No,
except players looking after players, because it's not in the owner's best interest. It's not in the league's best interest. I know there are health and safety requirements and safeguarding requirements, particularly around the youngsters. But when you start to get over 18, you're playing because of the love of the game. And this is my thing about hockey in the UK that I've seen over 30 years, is that nobody's playing it to be rich.
no,
You like you could look at the elite guys that have played, the British guys, and none of them have been able to retire off of what they earned.
no.
So that brings me down to, what should ice hockey be in the UK? What should it really be when you've got a couple of monster rinks that can make a lot of money, and they can have a lot of power, wield a lot of power over the organizations, right down to the rinks that close, like the Isle of Wight and Basingstoke, and them trying to, put teams in leagues and not make any money. And it just seems like the whole system it's just seems like the system of society. It's only set up to serve a few and not the many, and the many are the workhorses, that people pay to come and see. But why is it that the little bit of money that's to be made in hockey, when you consider other sports, just goes to a few? And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair. I know rinks cost a lot of money, and I know that, it's not a sport where you can really be rich unless you can bring in 7 or 8 thousand people every week or every
Yeah.
game. Nobody is going to make money. So I kind of have this altruistic view of hockey in the UK being set up as a charity. The
Okay.
whole thing should be a charity. If you get involved in hockey, you're not here to make money, because you're making money off of guys who are making 50 quid, 100 quid, 150 quid a week. And that just isn't fair. That's like you're making money off of slavery.
Yeah, if you
Right?
if you look at it that way, yeah.
Yeah. And guys who don't even play, they're getting their expenses, and you're still, people are coming to see them. So you're making money off of slavery. So I think that, like, the whole organization should be a charity or a CIC, community interest company, where it's not made for profit. And
So
that, I think, would,
what would you say on the, because obviously there's going to be pushback on this, and I'll play devil's advocate just because I've had him on the podcast. Tony Smith, he's a
yeah, yeah,
businessman. He's put his own
yeah,
money in. He's got that where there is 7, 8, 9,000 coming through the door regularly, where they do orange nights and there's 9,000 people with a fucking replica jersey on. They've got the orange towel, whatever it may be. They've spent their 7, 10 quid on the towel. They've
yeah,
got it to where it is a business that genuinely does make money.
yeah,
Obviously, running a team like Sheffield Steelers isn't going to be cheap. You got the arena hire, you got 20 houses, you got 20 cars, you've got other stuff that is going to cost money. What would you say with your idea of it being set up as a charity? Because the guys that have made it a successful business are going to push back and say, "Hey, well, it is our business. We've invested a lot of time. We've got a lot of people. We have the right to make money out of it." What would you say on that kind of angle?
until everyone has the ability to make the same amount of money, then it's an unfair playing field. Have profit sharing. NHL did it for years, right?
Okay.
Have profit sharing then. So if you make a certain amount of money, then it goes down to the Basingstokes and the Isle of Wights, who no longer have rinks, because they just couldn't afford to keep whatever. And I don't want to get into the Planet Ice thing, but have profit sharing then. But the thing, because it's unfair, and I like Tony Smith. I've interviewed Neil Black. I'm friends with Todd Kelman. Steve Thornton is a buddy of mine, but they're all blessed with big rigs, right?
Yeah.
And until you have the ability where everybody can get in the same amount of people, then it's down to marketing, right?
Yeah.
Then it's down to the hustle, And Simsey's a good friend of mine. No one hustles harder than Simsey. So Tony Smith, what his job before was jerseys or something like that, wasn't he? Because I
Yeah,
remember talking to him before. He was
is it
Rhinos.
Rhino? Rhino
Rhino
Sports?
Sports. Yeah. So I talked to him before he was even Sheffield. A good guy. My family's are Yorkshire people. My dad's my mom and dad are from Doncaster. So I've got no problem with the hard work that they do, but you just have to sit back and go, I was a successful business doing this, right? And now I'm getting into a business that in terms of the verticals in the league is disparagingly unfair because I can get in more people than everybody else. And it just hits a chance. It's just chance, right? But if you want to try to build something that is sustainable and something that is fair and where everyone gets their fair cut and there's no resentment along the way, then I think the whole system needs to be readjusted. And until everybody can get in 7 or 8 thousand people, either have profit sharing or figure out a way to redistribute the wealth in a fair manner. Because when I see people profiting off of ice hockey, which there is a time like say during the Super League time, right, where guys were just and I was right in the heart of it. I saw it all, I heard it all, I knew how much money Sky were putting into the games. I know the league wanted money off of Sky eventually. I know how the whole thing fell apart because of greed, right? Because people wanted money. And me and Gary Bryan, because we worked together,
Yeah.
we wanted to put on our own hockey show, a magazine show. And we
Yeah.
were like, who can we go? And Gary knew a lot of people in London. So we went to a huge company. Like it was a huge company. And I won't name names because I don't want people, but we sat there and we presented the idea and they were like, we love hockey. Such a great game. You two have played. It's a tough game. You're on TV. It's wonderful. Da 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 da. We're not going to touch you. And we both looked at it. What? We're not touching hockey with a 10-foot pole. And this is the mindset of large organizations like, from corporations to broadcasting companies. We will not touch ice hockey because we got this bad name as a snake that eats its own tail. So outside of the hockey community, in large business organizations, corporate organizations, broadcasting organizations, we are looked down upon because we are as seen as a entity where few profit off of the many, right? That's how ice hockey is seen in the UK. So I would do a huge PR thing if I was the president of hockey in England, in the UK. I would do a huge PR thing where I would just be like, we need to start being open and transparent. There are people who funnel money here, people who funnel money there. There's money, going into people's pockets that shouldn't be. There are people who are making money off of the hard work of players who play Saturdays and Sundays, and then they get up and work in their plasters on Monday mornings, and they're going to work with broken fingers, broken collarbones, because they need to pay their rent.
Yeah.
So I would do a huge, I'd do a huge shuffle, and it's never ever going to happen, Nikki, because money talks and power talks. Power holds on to power, and they've they've
It's
they've got it.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up the broadcast thing. It's something that I touched on with Henry. I've touched on it with Tony, all the guys that are kind of in and amongst the top of the game, and it's something that, in fact, actually, Todd, to his credit, I said, "Why are we not putting any games on YouTube for free?" And Todd, to his credit, said, "You know what? At some point this year, the Cardiff Devils will put a game versus either Fife or Dundee, one of the Scottish teams that don't travel so well fan wise. They will put it on online for free just as a test." And I think YouTube brings more eyes to the sport, and I think it's easily accessible. You don't have to be at home. You can be on the bus in London, going a night out with the boys, and fuck, the Devils v Flyers is on here. Wicked. Now, for the next 35 minutes when I'm on the bus on the way in, I can sit, my headphones on, I can watch the game. It's so accessible, and if it's YouTube as well in this day and age, if you go into a pub or you go into wherever it may be, a social club and stuff like that, they don't have to have a Sky Sports package. They don't have. Everyone's got YouTube built into their TV now.
Mm-hmm.
It's built in. So hey, do you mind the Devils Flyers game on? Do you mind sticking it on this TV over here for us? All of a
Yeah.
sudden, you start just putting the game out there into areas that it's not. I mean, you can't even watch a fucking hockey game in the Leaf at the moment. You go into
No,
Maple Leaf right now, and it's American football, and it's this and it's that. The Leaf used to be our bar,
it
motherfuckers.
did. Take it
It
back.
used to be. We're going to take it back, but in
Yeah.
order to do it, but imagine that. Like we used to do in the EPL days, we did Monday Club. and it'd be at the
Yeah.
Leaf, and you'd have guys from Guildford, Slough, Bracknell, Basingstoke, Peterborough. You'd have guys from every team on a Monday, right? You come down
Yeah.
and it was 10 cent 10p wing night, and
Hmm.
all guys would break bread together and drink beers, and there'd be hockey on. But imagine like the Elite League could get to a stage where, there was a game on accessible to everybody. You had deals with bars, whether it walkabout or,
Yeah.
so a chain where they're across the
Yeah.
UK. We are going to
Yeah.
show our games it might be a Tuesday night game. They might have to fucking make it a midweeker or whatever.
Make a
But
Monday night game.
Monday
Call it
night,
the Monday night YouTube Wings hockey.
whatever. But
Wings,
you,
but do it. But I think, and Todd was would also concede giving up their feed nights, giving up the revenue that they get from putting
yeah,
on their games online. They would give that up for a national
I,
broadcaster. And Todd said that. Now, Todd's an outlier because I don't think a lot of teams would want to give up their revenue that they get from their online games.
I get
And
that
that's
because it's a lot of money.
it's a lot of money.
Simsy put a figure on it, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a fucking big figure. Like I would not want to lose it. But
But
my
again,
argument with
it's if you want to have an honest league, right, where you know that any team could win it. It's you want a level team, right? You want a level league instead of a top four all the time, the top four powerhouses. Then something needs to be done. And I think that as long as and money's beautiful. Love to make money. But when it's not a fair system to make money, it's not fair. And when it's not fair, then it's not a nice product to feel part of. So this is what I'm just saying, Nikki, is that like if a national broadcaster came on, would they give up their online revenue for games? I'm not sure, um, but I think it would be good for the game. And I love your idea if somehow they could, you know, do a deal with YouTube to be able to broadcast the game to bars or to people's homes, wherever it is, but to do some publicity around it, some PR around it. I think that's a great idea. But you need to start getting the game out on this level. It needs to be something cool. It needs to be
yeah,
seen as something that isn't that sport over there. Like GB punches way above its weight. It does not get the national press it should get, again,
never.
because of the way the league is looked. It's so the whole sport is tainted in a way. When I'm not saying these words, guys, this is not my opinion. I have my own opinion. These are the things that I've learned through experience. But when I say a snake eating its own tail, that's how hockey is seen. Those were the words that came out of a very, very powerful person's mouth who runs a huge multinational company. So that's how hockey is seen. So until that is rectified somehow, through some changes and through a lot of marketing and just becoming a little bit more honest with people. And I think revenue sharing, all of these things could be huge, to be able to make people see that changes are happening within the game so that we're not seen the way we are seen.
The other thing I do like about YouTube, you give live streams. Obviously, it gives you access to be able to put sponsorships out there.
Yeah, yeah,
Adverts, breaks of play, and stuff like that. If it's done really well, no different from streaming your regular game, but obviously there's going to be thousands and thousands upon more eyes upon the product. The other thing I like, you can charge, I don't know, let's say gold, silver, bronze level memberships on your YouTube that allows you access to the chat.
hmm,
Okay, so let's say you have to be a gold member to be able to chat during a live stream. Sure as fuck, every UK hockey fan that wants to talk and everyone thinks what they got to say is important. They're going to pay that tenner a month to be a
hmm,
member, so that when you do stream your game, they can go on and have their say while the game's going on. And you're building up a community. We talk about community. Well, that's
yeah.
a community, but it's yeah, you're not paying 13 quid, 15 quid for the live stream. You're not getting that. But you might have 2,000 members that pay £10 a month to be a Cardiff Devils
Yeah.
gold member on their YouTube. Well, that's 20 bags.
And
So
you
there's
can sell
other,
advertising, like there's tons of benefits to be able to do what you're saying. But what you're saying is takes a concerted effort where people might have to give up one of their live streams, or it might be a blanket deal where they have to give up all of their live streams. Some sacrifice is going to have to need is will be made in order for that to happen. So, but I think that the more positive, like the thing is, Nikki, anybody watches the game going to fall in love with it. But how do we get rid of this reputation? How do we get rid of the reputation that you've seen, that I've seen over the last 30 years, right? As something that there's never been one governing body. There's a lot of, they call it the old boys club, which I know is being phased out, but there still is this thing of the snake eating its tail reputation that hockey has. How do we get rid of that? And I think that needs to happen before people start worrying about TV deals and sponsorship deals. The whole hockey community needs to look inwards for solutions. We can't look for external stuff. We need to look inwards and find out, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to get Sheffield to win the Champions League in Europe? Or are we trying to get GB back into Pool A? Are we trying to just find funding for more rinks so that people can understand the health benefits of what hockey and what skating do? There are all these motives that we need to figure out. What is hockey all about? For me, hockey is like a lifestyle. It's a culture. It's a learning. It's a learning about resiliency and what toughness really means. It's about community. It's about friendships that last a lifetime. It's not about a profit and loss column. I think that's very important because we need to be able to be sustainable. But I just think that it's too disjointed and not transparent or connected enough.
You touched on a couple of things there. Obviously, Steelers winning the Champions League. I mean, that would be fucking fantastic. Sorry to write you boys off. I know everyone's been writing you off at every stage along the way, but I think now that we're getting down to this business end of the tournament, some of those European teams are going to start putting their real rosters in,
Yeah.
and it's going to be tough. But I mean, that would
Hmm.
be fantastic, even for them to beat Berlin to get through the next round. That would be a fantastic achievement. Berlin are no joke. The DEL's no joke. They've got the romantic story, Kirk v Sheffield. I
Turkey.
mean,
Yeah.
it's got everything, and I love it. I'm here for it. Shout out to the Steelers for getting through. But for me, it is getting the senior team back into Pool A.
Yeah.
And the one that we seem to be bypassing all the time when we talk about that is the juniors aren't fucking good enough. And I'm
Hmm.
sick of being nice about it. Like they've been dog shit for the last 10 years. It's not acceptable. They've been playing like the fucking Mexican division against Spain and New Zealand and Estonia and teams like that. If we want to be serious and we want to really develop and be a pool A nation for years to come, our under 18s and our under 20s have to be competing against Latvia, France, Germany, Austria, Norway, Slovakia, Slovenia, not that tear down and that tear
No.
down again,
Yeah.
because we're never going to get taken seriously while we don't have a solid junior program. And I know they've tried to get Myersy involved. I know they tried to get Tony Hand involved, and they tried to get good people involved. But it's more than just a tournament.
Hmm.
It needs to be dialed in from September. Let's say the tournament they play is going to be, what is it? There's one in January and then like one at the end of the year, 18s, 20s. I can't remember which way around it is. But you've only got 3, 4 months and then a couple of months after Christmas to really dial it in. There needs to be
Yeah.
training camps. There needs to be, like you said, like some wellness stuff. I had Plusy on this week again. Plusy's on about like being like a mental coach and giving the player something to lean on. When I interviewed Henry, I sent a message to quite a few like influential people within the UK, and the big thing that came back was feedback. Give these kids
Hmm.
feedback. Check in. Check in on their training. Oh, you went
Yeah.
to the gym today? What did you do at the gym? What did you hit? How many reps? Fucking, oh, you smashed it. I saw from your session you did 7 drills and you had 4 PBs today. That's fucking epic.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were out shooting pucks? Have you been getting any skating coach? Like, but just something where it's a centralized system where we have. So, like, for example, Henry can log on tomorrow and go and find out what the 16-year-old kid from Bradford's been doing this week. And he
Yeah.
can go on and say, oh, well, we like him for a couple of years' time. He looks good. He's played
Hmm.
NIHL 2 at the weekend. He's played NIHL 1. I hear he's going to maybe go on a two-way with a National League team. And this is what he's done at his junior games. And be able to access all of that information instantaneously at the click of a button. But for that to happen, we need every coach that coaches these kids to buy in. And I get it, it's going to take time. And it's going to take someone with a really good bit of software out there for us to put it together. But like Henry said, that software's out there. We know
Yeah,
because other nations are doing it. I had Sam Chima on. Sam was saying about one of his girls that plays for France,
yeah,
one of his other girls that plays for Denmark. He said the biggest thing that he notices. So this week he's had 3 calls from 3 national teams to update and check progress on their players. He
mm,
said he's never had one phone call from a UK, anyone to do with the GB or England regarding his players.
yeah,
No feedback, no, they could be working on this or they did this really well. If we want it to be successful, communication is going to be key. It's going
yeah.
to be getting the right heads at the top in terms of like, if Danny Myers is giving your kid feedback, fucking listen.
Different nights.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
if he's
yeah,
gone out of his way to write a 20-minute spiel and maybe send you a couple of drills, and if you do this, you're going to improve, and if you do that, take it on board. But we need people like that relaying that information on because club coaching isn't always perfect. It's not always
no,
great, and you've got so many kids. Coaches are worn thin. I get it, but when it gets to that elite level, we need more feedback. We need more constructive criticism. We
hmm,
need systems in place where we can pull that data centrally. And something Sam said, and I'm sure you'll echo this, we need more best on best games in order to improve. We can't keep the 12 nils and fucking 14 ones and like you. So I spoke to Mizey back end of last year, and he was talking about his boy playing for Swindon. And they had like one game, it might have been Haringey or Streatham, whoever it was like the next best team. They play them once in September, and then they shit pump everyone between
yeah,
September and April, and then they play that team in April again. So this is a fucking whole season for 2 games. Really,
yeah.
like it's
I think Nikki, as you're talking, it's like this is one of the things that I spoke about when I was in Cardiff is this movement from the me to the we. And I think that if someone like Cardiff is an elite level team, right? They're talking about how do we create a culture where, and this is what I do with Retribe, is we try to change culture, right? Where for my experience playing in hockey, it was like 22 individuals, right? Come together on a team with the common purpose to win a game. But we were never taught to pull together as a team and to move from this cultural ideology of the me to the we, right? And this is what I think needs to happen in UK hockey is that you have every single team operating by themselves with their own motives, their own ideologies, their own um, ways to figure out how to win. And that isn't necessarily the best way for a league and for a sport like hockey in the UK to thrive because it doesn't have the resources, it doesn't have the rinks, it doesn't have the money to be able to do that. And it needs to be a cultural shift where all stakeholders in UK hockey, all stakeholders, whether it's the guys who own, the big money teams right down to, I always think about the Isle of Wight, because we were that small little rink.
yeah.
But man, it meant so much to me, that place, but it was known as the Little Minnow, right? Even though we had some amazing results and I know you played down there for a little while, didn't you?
Loved it. Yeah,
Um,
loved it.
yeah, it's just, but so you have the Sheffield to the Isle of Wight. They're your comparison in terms of the rinks, but they all need to be on the same hymn sheet. They're all stakeholders and they all need to have the same message. They all need to move this thing of like we instead of Sheffield, Isle of Wight. It needs to be we as a hockey community need to thrive together. And that takes a real brave movement. It takes a real brave movement where, people who I look up to and the leaders in the game need to start really going, the why? What are we trying to do? The why and the what? What's going on? And then start looking at the who's and who's going to fix it, and getting great people like Danny Myers involved. And there's some amazing hockey players that I've played with who are really quite altruistic now. They've learned, they've done enough personal growth on themselves to understand themselves that we need to pull together. And I really think that hockey has got some of the most amazing people I've in the UK, some of the most amazing people and most amazing friends I've ever had. As individuals, I love them. But as a hockey community, it's hard to love the whole thing when I see so much unfairness.
Yeah, there's been plenty of that over the years.
Hmm.
Just before I go to the next question, ladies and gents, if you haven't seen already, it is Christmas toy drive season. 4,000 and counting Christmas toy drive is underway. If you haven't already, please go check out the interview I done with Lee Mercer last week. Me and Lee discuss our full plans in there. We do need liaison officers from clubs up and down the country. So if you're, Swindon Juniors, or you're Steve now at Swindon Wildcats, or you're Todd Kelman, or you're the under 10s, we don't care who it is, but we need a liaison from each club. We really want to push this and make it the biggest toy drive possible this Christmas for the kids. So all the details are on the Lee Mercer one. There will be posts coming out as we get closer here, but I've already actually started receiving some gifts from some of you fans, and we can't thank you enough. That's great. Amazon boxes are starting to arrive at my door now. I haven't really thought about where I'm going to put all these presents because they're coming in thick and fast, but that's for me to worry about. You guys just worry about donating. There will be a GoFundMe at some stage. Just try to get all the liaisons. So if you perhaps didn't want to send a gift, but you want to chuck a tenner in the pot for us to buy, we'll go around and make sure we buy gifts as well. And then Merce is a legend. He's going to be going to rinks up and down the south, all across the south, and picking up parcels, and he's going to bring them all to me. I don't know what he's going to do when he turns up with a van full because I don't have a van. So uh, it's a good problem for me to have. If I have to go to the hospitals 2 or 3 times, it means I've got 2 or 3 carloads, and we're happy with that. I'm willing to do the donkey work this end. But ladies and gents, please do give what you can. It's a very great cause, and having done it 3 4 times already and been in there and given the presents to the staff and the kids, and it does go a long way, and it's something that we're passionate about, so we would love your support. Right, sorry Nick, I just had to get that in there. I keep forgetting to do that
Beautiful.
on
Well done, man. Well done.
podcasts at the moment. Yeah, mate, it's a great thing, and that's the other thing. Like, there's plenty of people in this game that, like, just I'll use that for example. How many people have reached out and offered help? Like, there's fucking good people in this game, and like you said,
The
they're
best.
friends for life, right? And
Yeah.
Merce, as soon as I found out, he's on the phone. He's like, right, what? Yeah, I've got this and I've got that, and I'm going to do this for you, and I'm going to do that. It's like, I didn't ask. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're just there, willing to help, like right on the bat.
Yeah. And that's the asset, right? Are the players. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm doing what I'm doing now, is that I've just decided that I'm going to full on build, the largest athlete support network for hockey players in the UK. And that's what we are doing. We've got the Facebook page right now, which is over 500 people. And
Do
I
you want to
am
tell
in
the
the
people
process.
the address for that so they
Well,
can find it?
yeah, it's just if you go onto my Facebook page, but also and it's UK Ice Hockey Stick Together Tribe. Now, what I wanted to do, rather than doing it through Retribe, I wanted to create just a platform for UK hockey players, past and present, and it's just for hockey players. So there's like 2 membership questions you ask of whether or not you've played in the UK or are playing in the UK or if you've ever played hockey. And the idea is that we create this space just for hockey players. And for me, Wadi, like that was the thing about doing a podcast is like, yeah, I would love to be able to cut a podcast out to more people, but this is the one that you're going to do is just going to be targeting this 500 people. So you
Yeah.
and I are going to be able to have a conversation that's a little bit different. Where it's just for hockey players because Joe Collins and Tim Cranston started a hockey union in England, in
Yep.
the UK 23, 24, maybe 25 years ago. And it obviously didn't work out. But I remember when I paid my fees and I got that hat,
Same.
I just felt great, as part of a union. And we know now there's no organization or association um, to look after players in the UK. Now I've talked to Peter Chayanek here, who's he's a Czech legend for Barony, but also played 4 years for the St. Louis Blues. And he talked about the fact that when he stopped playing in the Czech Republic, they wanted to start a union here too, but they had so much trouble because the wages were so low that guys were very unwilling to start paying
Paying
like
towards it.
fees for a union, right? So trying to take little nuggets of information from guys like him, but also guys who've been in unions, even guys who are in the NHLPA, about what we can create is to create a non-union, non-association platform, right? Where we're not a union or association. We are literally just a place where you have guys helping guys, giving, tips on how to look through contracts. I've got a lawyer in the UK who will help look through like pro bono work, do a little bit of like digging and diving into some contracts to make sure they're okay, but also to give players the power to be able to look into things like insurance, whether or not they are insured. Because I know that's been a huge problem. I know you've talked to Smurf a lot, and I again I love Smurf. He's extremely passionate. And he talks,
Yeah,
he's Smurf, right? He's Smurf.
he's fucking Smurf. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I see him
and I love the guy.
every post at
Yeah,
the IH or the Ice Hockey UK.
yeah.
He's
So
like, don't forget that you owe Smurf fucking, and
yeah,
he puts it down every time.
but also like Peter Hewitt, who played for Chelmsford, was a British guy, his whole hockey career in Chelmsford, got cross-checked in Streatham and cracked his skull, and
Ouch.
he's been like his podcast is on the Stick Together thing too. And what a story. He's been struggling for 20 odd years with a brain injury from hockey. And there's been nothing, no support, no apology. And I think that's the thing, is like no hockey player, like it's not like anybody's in this to try to sue anybody. We're just in this to try to make sure that we can mitigate any pain and suffering that happens. We all know we play a violent game and that injuries happen. And I think that in an organization being able to say this has happened, how can we start helping one another? I think it would be awesome, but I know it's not going to happen. So I'm going to I have created this platform, and we are building it into a mobile application. So we're currently looking for EU funding and other funding and VC funding so that we can build this into a proper app that can do the things that you mentioned as well. Where
Yeah.
every player at every stage of their game can be part of this community where we can support one another. So the first aspect of it is going to be peer-to-peer support. Now, when I was getting better, when I was trying to get better, I went to psychologists and my doctor when I was struggling with alcohol, right?
Yeah.
CBT, all these things, harm reduction therapy, none of it worked. It only really gained traction with me was when I was with a bunch of guys who had been through what I was going through, and which was peer to peer support. So we started peer to peer support. We started a few tribes. One tribe that I'm in has Paul and River and Martin Genoa and Ben Aqua and Jason Wood and
Mental.
Peter Hewitt, Dean Russell Samways. Like, we're a tribe, and we've been meeting every week for 7 months at the same
Perfect.
time. And we're all around. Martin's down in Houston, Texas. Woody's out in Vancouver. Rushy's in Ottawa. Dean is on. He's driving his semi truck all over the United States. Ben's over in London. So Pete's up north. So we meet and we do peer to peer support. So we have a proof of concept that this works. So we support each other through our challenges and through our good times. And we laugh and we cry. We do all these beautiful things as a group. So the Retribe app is going to offer the ability for people to have peer to peer support. Then we have Dr. Misha Jarvis and her cohort of sports psychologists that will offer workshops on everything from, concussion sessions to the tough through tender program. And then we're going to have exclusive content, which is the stuff that I'll do with you and Lee, and that I've done with all the other guys,
Yeah.
where this is just for them. It's just for exclusive content for the UK hockey community. And that'll be the nuts and bolts of the app that we're starting to build right now.
I think it's going to have some legs in it, mate. And obviously, we'll share the group on there. And if you are a player and you are watching, please do join. That has the ability to, go from 500 to 1,000 very quickly if you guys get on board. That's once you start getting the numbers
There's
and more.
11,000. Yeah, there's nearly 12,000 registered hockey players in the UK, and we're at 520 something. If we can get thousands of hockey players on there, then what we have, Nikki, is we've got player power,
Yeah.
right? Again, we're not going to do marches, we're not going to protest, we're not going to strike. We're going to support one another. It's not about creating opposition. It's about empowering players. And I've always believed in an ecosystem. Okay, pretend UK hockey is an aquarium, right? And everyone's in this aquarium. Everyone's a bunch of frogs, and we're all kind of going around and trying to live our lives and stuff. But the the parameters are not safe. We're bouncing off of glass. We're not looked after. We're not getting looked after injuries. It takes someone like Aaron to start the bleed kits,
Yeah,
Aaron Gray to
amazing.
get those out to people, which is, it's taking people outside of the people who should control the ecosystem to help the frogs, right? And I always believe in this, and Misha Jarvis, it's her words. And it's about creating a power up ecosystem rather than a power over ecosystem. And you and I live in a power over threat based culture. And hockey is like that too. Many coaches, power over, right? If you don't do this, then this is going to happen. Nobody thrives when they're in any kind of fear or threat state, right? So we want to create an ecosystem where people can thrive because they're not in fear of losing their job, or they're not in fear of getting hurt and not being insured. They're not in fear of somebody yelling at them, and that is culture shift and culture change. And if I can't do that through the teams and the organizations, then I'm going to do it through Retribe. So creating, and that's about getting people involved. That's about getting players involved, because so many players have been through so much shit. They have more wisdom to depart than any psychologist or therapist. So let's create that safe space where guys and gals can come to and share their stories, share their experience, and help support one another so that we can make hockey what it can be.
Yeah, just as you're touching on there, shout out Erin and Adam's Angels. I know
Yeah.
they currently have a Just Giving link that's doing the rounds. They're still trying to raise more money to put more bleed kits out. I believe that's 6 bleed kits that have actually been used now. So
Yeah. The
six in
one
a
in
year.
Chelmsford the other day. Yeah.
Yeah. Erin's obviously keeping me updated with what's going on. It's great to, well, it's not great to see them being used. It's great to see that they're there if they do need to be used. Ideally, I would not like any of them to need to be used, but
No.
I said this around about the time of Adam, you guys that were calling pet grave all sorts of things, and skate cuts happen regularly. You just don't fucking hear about it. Nick, obviously you've been on benches. You know, guy comes back off your next
Dude,
shift.
Matt
He's
Painter.
got a
You know
hole in
Matt
his
Painter
leg.
on the other way.
Yeah, yeah,
He
like
had
it
his throat
happens.
hit right in front of me.
It does, it happens. You
Yeah.
just didn't hear about it until now because of what happened to Adam. It went global. It's changed all sorts of neck guards. But the amount of guys that, and I've had it, you come back to the bench and a skate's caught you across here, or I've had it in the inside thigh. I've had it a few places. You'll be shocked at actually how often a skate cuts people. That's why we've had the Kevlar socks and new Under Armour type situations going on with built-in protection. But not everybody's going to wear that protection. Not every kid can afford the fucking £150 sweats. But sure as shit, they should have an Adams Angels kit sat on that bench, whether it be U10s, whether it be the Sheffield Steelers, whether it be in the Champions League or in a cross ice. It can happen to anybody. Any sort of injury can happen. If you're one of these people complaining to the fucking EIH about Erin's kits, give your head a shake. I do not.
People are complaining about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh fucking hell, mate. We got
Jeez.
tagged in some stuff the other day. People are complaining that they're not good enough. Hey, they're going to save some lives, and they've already stopped some catastrophic bleeds happening already. And these are just in the youngsters games. Like these things happen at all sorts of levels, but we don't want our kids worst case dying. We definitely don't want that, but we don't want them having severe injuries. We don't want them having traumatic experiences where they decide, you know what, that's me done.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, Nikki, is that like people, I don't know if people understand how dangerous the game is, right?
Yeah,
Unless you've
very.
played it, you don't know what it's like to have a stick come up and cut your eye. Um, and to have the things that you've mentioned, the cuts, the bruises, the broken bones. Like it is a dangerous game. And guys don't in the UK don't play it for the money. They play it for the love of the game and like I told you, the lifelong friendships, the building resiliency, the connection and the bonds that you have with guys. That's why we play the game that we love. And there is no question that when I played hockey and when you played hockey, hitting was a lot different.
Yeah,
And you'd hit to put a guy through the boards, right? The coach would
100%.
put up 5 feet on the other side of the boards. The culture of the game changes because we knew and we've learned that concussions are not good. And I think this is another thing is that the awareness around concussions needs to happen. That's why we do these concussion awareness sessions because guys, I didn't understand. I didn't really twig because I wasn't a big drinker when I played hockey. It was when I stopped playing hockey and I started working at Sky that I had all these feelings of an imposter, and
Yeah,
I
imposter
just felt like
syndrome.
a fraud. And that's when, I went into my crazy drinking and drugging time, was because to deal with the fact that I wasn't a player anymore. I had the dream job, Nikki, the dream job. I made more money than most of the players. It was a beautiful job, but I never really truly enjoyed it because I never felt like I deserved it. And I didn't, when I started to go through some of these symptoms of what concussions can do to you and how they can dysregulate how we feel about ourselves. I didn't put two and two together that I did have 6 or 7 concussions, as a player. That's one a year almost, right?
Yeah.
We know it's now 3 and you're done. So Jason Wood has 16 confirmed concussions. That guy, every time I see him, he's like, he's grabbing his neck. He's dealing with these challenges today as a player. So we need to understand more as players so that we can say to ourselves, I'm not going on the ice. I've just got my bell rung. And for the coaches not to judge and to be able to say, all right, man, because a
That's the right
concussion,
move. That's go sit
yeah,
in the stands,
to
get
be
fit.
supported, you bell rung, you get off the ice, and not to feel like a wuss, because that's what would have happened when we were playing, right? I remember
100%.
when Hollister, he knocked the daylights out of me in Sheffield when he was playing for Billingham. He lined me up right in front of Sheffield's bench when I was playing Sheffield, and he gave me such a hit. My head was spinning, and I just had to smile.
Yeah,
I had
just
to
get back up.
smile, and because I was next to the bench, I could reach out. I remember like grabbing the bench, my arm shaking, with a smile on my face because I didn't want to let 8,000 people know that I was hurt,
Yeah.
and I was out on the next shift. So these are the cultural changes that we need to, as players, not to feel ashamed, not to have some awareness how precious this thing is, and how for 50 quid, 100 quid, 150 quid a week, it is not worth what can happen after your
Down the
career
line.
to pay. So that means we need to hold each other more accountable to the hits, and to how we play the game, and to make sure that we look after each other. Even though you might hate the guy on the other team, you got to make sure he's got a family to go home to.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
let's have a fun question followed by a current question. So if the UK hockey scene got back on Sky Sports, obviously it was you and Simsy before. Who would you put as your two kind of guys now? Who would present the show in this day and
Fuck,
age?
I love what Ben's doing over at Zero Pucks. I love what you're doing. Um,
I
Maybe
probably
you
swear a little
guys.
bit too much for Sky Sports.
Well, but you could be the biz nasty. Ben is he's such a lovely guy. I have him on it. Um, I'd throw myself in the mix somewhere. I
Get
liked
back
doing the
on, get
rinks.
back at it. Yeah.
I really liked being ringside. That was the fun
Yeah.
job. Because you formed a bond with the players. Um, I'd like maybe get Anna back, Anna Wilhouse, maybe pull
Yeah,
her
good
out of the
shout.
boxing.
I think she's smashing it a little bit too well nowadays, though, right?
Yeah. See what Gabby Logan's up to. Maybe she'll come out of hockey retirement too.
That would be class,
She was
yeah.
a, yeah. But yeah, I think it would be great for hockey if a broadcaster, no matter what, even if it had a paywall behind it, it would be good for the sport to know that it's on TV. It just gives the sport some kudos, right? Basketball, netball, like they're all on TV. Why is hockey not on TV somewhere with a big broadcaster like a Sky or one of the terrestrials?
So someone commented on my video the other day on YouTube, and they said right now TNT Sports 1 and 2 has pull on both on channel 1 and channel 2 of TNT. Not he goes, not snooker, fucking pull. And I was like, it just shows like how even like a niche sport like pull.
Yeah,
Well, like darts. Darts has got it's got to be one of the most popular sports in the UK
yeah,
solely because it's so accessible. It's there. They fucking market it great. They've made characters now. Like Luke Littler, he's like the reincarnation of Phil the Power Taylor. But
yeah,
they're marketing this story. They're getting him out there. They're putting him in households. The
yeah,
kid went from like 5,000 Instagram followers to like 2.9 million followers and whatever it was in such a
yeah.
short span of time. But that's good for business because it's all coming back and it's all coming. There, we know as well as anyone the amount of fucking characters that are in an ice hockey locker room. And if you gave them a little bit of a profile, They could
Yeah.
build the sport. They could build the brand. They could really bring eyes. Who doesn't
The
want to
thing
see
is,
Robert Dowd with his top off fucking doing some bench press? Like,
yeah, yeah.
like there's some guys out there that you could use.
It's the best sport on the planet. It's the best sport on the planet. I love it through and through. There's amazing characters, and they need to be put on a pedestal, and the people around them need to shine them up, and hold them on a pedestal. And as a community, we need to rise together, right? We don't need to knock each other down. And you like social media has been horrible for it. How it can be so negative, and these keyboard warriors. I can't wait for the comments to come out about some of the things that I've said. Um, but hockey is so different, and it could be so amazing if, like I said, if from the grass up, players started to have a little bit more power, and a little bit more governance over how they pay, how everything is run. And then for the fans, I think that's the thing that I was just be nicer to each other. Like there's no
Doesn't
need for
doesn't seem
assholes,
doesn't
and
seem to be doesn't seem to be happening
no,
so far this year, but
no, but just that would just be nice to each other. Like it's just the negative stuff to criticize. There's a quote, right, about criticism. I can't remember what it is, but criticism is the lowest form of human interaction because it requires no empathy or knowledge. It's easy to criticize, right? But to give constructive suggestions, or like to come from empathy, is so much more rewarding. And I think that's what I just encourage anybody who I work with to do, is just to become more compassionate to yourselves. Like, before you put like that stuff in X, would you say that to yourself or to your family member? Where is it coming from? And do you really need, that I think Socrates said, is what I'm about to say, is it truthful? Is it useful? And is it necessary? Something like that. So ask yourself those questions before you start to pull down a sport that doesn't need negativity. It needs love, man. It needs encouragement. It needs the community to come together so that we can all rise together, rather than just everyone operating as little individual silos, trying to get their little click and their dopamine hit from something negative that they're going to say.
craziest thing with that is obviously after Adam Johnson's death last year, there was about a 2 week period where it was like this fucking grace period of UK hockey where all these fans all of a sudden were fine. And then after about day 10,
Yeah,
day 11, you could slowly see like the nicey nicey start to drift away. And by 2 weeks, everyone was motherfucking everybody again. And it went
yeah,
back to this hatred. And, you know, there is no real rivalries in the UK. I'm sorry to break it to you. Like, there isn't a Rangers Celtic. There isn't a AC in we don't have it in UK hockey. It is not life and death for us in this. It's not Catholic Protestant. It's none of that.
mm-mm,
It
mm-mm.
is none of that. Chances are you could go to any rink with your Belfast Giant shirt on and sit next to a guy and have a pint. You're gonna have a good time. Nobody's gonna nobody's gonna do anything. So and when you actually go to the facilities, it's fine. Like I've been
Yeah,
up in
yeah,
a couple of Elite League games this year. I've sat with the home fans. I've sat with the away fans. Had a beer with both. It's good. It's friendly. Go online. That same fan's
yeah.
probably telling me I'm a motherfucker. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the guy I just shared a
Yeah.
pint with. But in real life, it's not like that. So why
The
make
thing
it
is
that way
like
on
if they,
X?
yeah, don't, whatever you wouldn't say to someone's face, don't say it online, and don't do it behind some fake name.
Yeah, it's the
If you
worst.
got the balls to say something to criticize us, then say it with your real name. Don't say it behind some kind of made up bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. Right, I've got one final question
Hmm.
before I let you go. We've had a bit of an incident in the UK this week, which saw the referee, Mr. Sewell, kick a player's skates out from underneath him, or at least attempt to. I've been involved in this sport since 1992. First time I've seen that. Hopefully, the last time I've seen that. I don't want to give the guy too much shit. I would like to actually ask him the question and find out why he did it before I lump on. But with it being like a year after Adam,
Mm.
literally the weekend of Adam's anniversary, like a week later, we're looking at a potentially massively dangerous issue. What do you make of it? Because I've kind of kept quiet. I've let the fans kind of say their bit. I haven't gave too much opinions on it. I think it's interesting to talk about with an ex-pro. So
Yep.
it'd be interesting to hear what you think.
The slew footing is the lowest form of contact you can have with someone on skates, right? Contacting the back of someone else's skate with your leg or skate is just it's the low. Like you're gonna get 10 bells beaten out of you for doing something like
Yeah,
that. It's fucking dangerous. Now, and it should never be done unless you want to get a pummeling, right?
yeah,
So a slew foot is a no-no. And as players, we're all taught from a very young age, you never lash out your skate. You've got a deadly weapon on the end of it, right? And of course, we know accidents happen, but I've watched that incident over and over and over again, and it does seem like a very deliberate attempt to put the guy off balance. I don't know what's being said between the two players. I don't know what's being said to the referee. I don't know I don't know what he was thinking, but it definitely looks like he's deliberately trying to put this guy off balance. The other guy is in a fight. Is he in mortal danger? Like those would be the circumstances where you go, I got to put this guy down because this other guy's going to get, really badly hurt. Um, but there's just, I don't know, dude. It's like he had a brain fart, man. Like it's
yeah.
just because I did look it over and over again whether or not he actually loses his balance. I was trying to look for every little excuse
Same.
for him. Um, he doesn't lose his balance. It looks like he's deliberately trying to. I'm not saying he's trying to put the guy down, but he's trying to put him off balance or something, which is just there's just no need for it at all.
I just
I
never
don't know
seen
what the
it, mate. Like
repercussions.
I've
Never seen it. No, no,
never
I don't
seen
know
it
what the
at any.
repercussions are. Don't know what happens if a ref does that. I don't know if he should come out and say something about it. Maybe get on here and talk to you about what he was going through.
If I was him, I would, because otherwise, what you do have is
All
everyone
of us speculating.
filling
Yeah,
in the blanks and speculating. Now, you just touched on you don't know what the repercussions are. In that same game, one of the Guildford players did get slew foot and penalty, 5+ game, since been suspended for 1 game. That
yeah,
is on the Elite League website the day after. The
yeah,
Department of Player Safety video, whatever, it's all there. When are you going to tell us? This is to the league now. When are you going to tell us about the referee? Like,
yeah.
it's the most. It's the we put that out, had 50,000 views on that video just on our page. Now I know that the EIHL page and all sorts of Facebook pages and Instagram, Twitter, wherever. Let's say that video has probably been viewed 1 million times.
Hmm.
You can't just keep pushing it, kicking it down the road. You need to come out, explain that, hey, he's going to get a 3 game suspension from refereeing. This is what's going to happen. Or he's not going to get any suspension. This is why. Obviously, he's going to give a report and he's going to say what he was thinking.
Hmm.
I'm very much of the belief that you are there. His brain just fucking. And it does happen. Why do you think turnovers happen? Why do you think guys drop past the puck to the other team? Why do you think guys
Yeah,
miss open nets? We have brain farts out there. It does happen.
yeah.
Officials miss stuff, but the kicking, uh, the kicking for me, it's just so fucking dangerous. And the other thing is, if I'm fighting a guy that wants to fight me and he's fighting me and I want to fight, all of you just stay the fuck out of the way.
Yeah,
We're only going to be, unless we're Morasti, we're probably going to have
yeah,
40 seconds in the tank at the very most. Unless you're like
yeah,
Morasti and Aaron Asham or, Cam Jansen and you can chuck knucks for 1 minute and 45, chances are after about 30, 40 seconds, we're going to tire ourselves out and fall over anyway. You've got two
yeah.
guys already in the mix. You then come from the back. The other thing that happens with fights is helmets come off. Now, if helmets
Hmm.
come off and you kick the back of my skates away and I fall and hit my head, I know you said earlier we're not talking about suing, but fuck me, I'm suing the shit out of you. Like he could have, if if he'd have been unfortunate and something had occurred from this incident, like a severe injury, that would have been the last game he
Well,
ever
he's the one
refereed.
that's going to get squashed. Like
Yeah,
he'd have two big guys coming down on him because he's
yeah,
he's in here. He's got this, and the leg motion goes down here. He's got two guys coming down on him. If the Guildford guy does lose his footing, right, and they'll come smack down on Sewell. So I don't know what he was thinking, man. It's not a way to break up a fight.
no. Do you think there needs to be more education on breaking
Well,
up
this is my
fights?
whole thing, dude. Yeah, like there's money in the game. It's going in. It's there's profit being made. But I think that if there was going to be some real concerted effort to make hockey thrive, right, then the money needs to be siphoned and funneled and shared so that referees can be developed, coaches can be developed. ice rinks can be developed so that the sport can thrive. But until something is done within the governing bodies and the owners who actually go, again, why are we here? What are we here for? Are we here just so our team can win everything and piss on everybody all the time? Or are we here so that the sport can thrive? And I think those questions need to be asked to owners and to the governing bodies. They need to get around the table and go, why are we here? And then start figuring out how they're going to make it happen, whatever they decide. And then make that public. Because then we can understand, oh, right, you're here to make 4 teams Champions League and to make them known throughout the hockey world. We don't care about it. I'm not saying we don't care about anything else, but that's going to be our
That's the
priority. Then let us
objective.
know.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
let us know. Or is it something different? you know so there is money out there, Nikki. It just needs to be
Yeah.
funneled into the right way where referees can be taught, because these guys are giving up their time. They're not making a lot of money. You and I are good friends with a lot of refs, and they've broken up
Yeah.
our fights, and we know what the pennies that they did it for.
Yeah.
And they get, I'm glad that Holtman's back involved in the game, but he got pushed out for a long time, and he should have been
Yeah.
involved.
And
So start.
Tomo, like
Yeah.
I was speaking to Tomo at Guildford a couple of weeks back. He's doing, obviously, him and Dave are doing the little liaison bit with the NIHL DOPS, but he's also doing a little bit of work with the Elite League referees, doing like scouting their games and reporting back. And I speak to Tomo. He said, take the traveling away. If you could teleport me to Sheffield for Sheffield Nottingham, and I didn't have to sit in the car and I wasn't away for 18 hours a day, fuck you, ref in a heartbeat. But
Yeah.
these guys aren't getting rich. They're not doing it for a lot of money. They're in the car. And if it's your turn to drive that weekend, you might be driving from Guildford up to Sheffield on the Saturday and then coming
Yeah.
back. And then you're going, maybe you're in the National League the next day in Telford. So you're spending your entire weekend in this car basically, and you're not getting paid a lot of money. There's limited, if
Yeah.
any, sort of resources going back towards development. I think if we were to, Scott Conway came out and said when he left to go to Slovakia, he came out and put a tweet out that fucking officiating in this league's a joke, especially in Scotland. And I wonder, like, yeah, he said that, and then who did we have on? Nat Halbert, he was the then Coventry captain. I think we had him on maybe a week or two after, and he was like, "Yeah, the officiating's a joke." And you're starting to see more and more top players in our top league complaining about the officiating. But again, maybe something goes on behind the scenes that I'm not privy to. But I'm not hearing about any real training camps. Like, for example, talk about breaking up fights. If you gave me £1,000, I don't know, my brother £1,000, Brandon Miles £1,000, and one other guy, and took us up to Nottingham, we'll kick the fuck out of each other all weekend so that you guys can come in and learn how to break up fights properly. We'll go
Yeah.
lefty on lefty, we'll go righty on righty, we'll go lefty on righty, we'll go where guys notoriously tie up, we'll be able to put you in every scenario where that your
Yeah.
linesmen have to properly learn to break a fight up, know when to come in, know when to stay out. Okay,
Hmm.
that guy's getting pummeled. We need to jump in. And you've talked about just then, like the guys that broke our fights up. The ones that were most successful, super, super simple. Talk.
That's
Talk to
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Because I'm
They
I'm
always
I'm
talk.
focused.
Yeah.
I'm focusing here. If you're stood there, but you're in my ear, I can hear you.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
just grab a hold of me and I don't know you're coming, I'm gonna lash out. You might catch a stray elbow. Like you
Yeah.
said, we might fall down. If it's, say, me and Chris Wiggins falling on you, you're gonna need some new ACLs.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get
Talking,
injured.
but you know what? Like obviously they need to go to training camps, and a lot of them won't have time to take off of work. So I think something needs to be considered where, again, these guys can be given localized weekend training camps throughout August and financially rewarded for it.
Yeah,
So you're given a few £100s to go on a weekend training course, and you got to go to 4 over the summer. So you're giving up your time, but we're going to pay you for it. It's not going to be something that you volunteer for.
yeah,
And I think this needs to be done. These guys need to, they're never going to get like a minimum wage like those guys in the NHL get, like there's just the resources aren't there. But there needs to be, again, I'm going to keep saying it, there is money coming in, and it's making profit for people. And I think if the league changes its why, then that money can be used to train refs to make, you want to make the league better. You want to make it a place where guys want to come and play, and you want to make it a place where the youngsters are learning, and they're seeing something that they can aspire to be, right?
Yeah.
So that they're not thinking about like leaving this country and going and playing somewhere else. They are actually wanting to play in the elite league. So all of these things I think need to happen, Nikki, for the change of the culture of the game, the organization of the game. I don't think we've actually said any solutions. I'm just trying to give out some ideas about,
Yeah.
just becoming a stronger, um, more unified community of UK hockey people and all stakeholders.
Nick, been a pleasure, my friend. Ladies and gents, if you're new here, please do subscribe. Make sure you follow us across all social media. This is our third interview in 3 days. We're going to be try to ram out like seven in a week here. So I just want to thank everybody that donated to the laptop. Without you guys, this would not be possible. So thank you very much. That has allowed us to get back. That's 5 interviews in the last kind of 10 days here. There's going to be more coming thick and fast. We will get back to some sort of roundup. I'm hoping maybe we can get Mark out of retirement once he's feeling a bit better and he's back on the mend to shoot some shit with you guys. But this has been fun, Nick. I guess I'll be seeing you on the Stick Together tribe very, very soon.
Yes, buddy. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, let's just grow the community, buddy, and keep doing what we're doing. And I'm over in London next week. I don't know if you're around, but
Maybe get
maybe
little
let's
pop
talk
up
about
for
it
a little coffee
offline.
or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, buddy.
sounds good.
Right,
All
ladies
right,
and
brother.
gents, peace. Thank you very much.
Take it easy.